Georgian College is planning a $32 million expansion in its downtown Barrie campus and is asking the city for a $7.5 million investment to be paid over 10 years. The expansion would create 82,000 square feet of learning space for over 1,000 students in arts, design, and digital technology fields. Georgian College's president and CEO, Kevin Beaver, told Simcoe Community Media that the project aims to enhance the vibrancy and economic activity of the downtown area.
So this was certainly, to this ask of the city, this is certainly step one, is to present to Finance Committee, and you heard the questions and seems to be support. So we'll follow up with the city on next steps. We also have a silent phase of our own campaign running to draw others into the project to see if we can garner more financial support. And then, as I mentioned to committee, we're waiting on an approval. There's an approval process that happens through the provincial government, and then we're really hoping to be in and starting renos by the end of summer.
There has been, consistent drop in the international students. So, how Georgian, College is preparing to cope with that?
Yeah, so we are seeing a drop. There's no question. There's been a series of changes at the federal level with policy, and so we're seeing that decline in enrollment, and that is hurting us in a decline in revenue. So we're making decisions that we have to make to ensure that we're being financially sustainable as an organization, and we'll continue to work with the province to look at ways that we can attack a broken funding model, which is the situation we're currently in. But we're working through that, and we're doing it with bold decisions like a downtown expansion, and we're doing it with innovation.
Deloitte Consulting gave the City of Barrie a clean sheet of health based on the audit and the financial statements. It noted that the city's debt level has decreased by $13.7 million year over year, which is a significant drop in a 12-month period. Barrie President Victorino Rodriguez presented a dispute regarding an unpaid water bill. He argued the city changed its policy without notifying landlords and failed to follow its own shut-off procedures. The city staff explained that both the 2011 and 2016 bylaws held landlords responsible for unpaid tenant bills and outlined the city's process for notices and shut-offs. Council also approved the net zero strategy for 2025 to 2050, which focuses on phased greenhouse gas reductions through fleet electrification, building retrofits, and energy efficiencies. An amendment requires Mayor Alex Nuttall and Chief Administrative Officer Michael Prowse approval for new build projects with return on investment over 5 years. The plan remains flexible to adopt emerging technologies like hydrogen in future evaluations. Following is our interview with Georgian College's president and CEO Kevin Beaver and coverage of the meeting.
So we were building off of the initial announcement we made last June, about a year ago, and presenting to committee today, asking the city for a $7.5 million investment over 10 years, really as a catalyst to our investment in coming downtown Barrie and an expanded presence. And we're hoping to do that by fall 2026. So we're at 55 Mulcaster, which is Barrie City Centre, and we're looking at programs that are really centered around the creative arts, design, digital technologies, as well as areas of collision where former arts type programming and new technologies really collide. So it's a space that will be focused on innovation. And we're going to bring about 1,000 students downtown in a variety of programs. Some programs we currently offer and some new programs that are in development that I'll be excited to announce when I'm able to. Yeah, well, I really appreciated the questions and the support. You're right, there seemed to be good support around the table, which is great. We've been supported by so many community leaders who are really excited about bringing 1,000 students and the energy and the economic spin-off that brings to the vibrancy of a downtown. And we're excited because the design of this new space is exciting, it's exhilarating, and we're just excited for the overall project and the impact it's going to have.
There has been, consistent drop in the international students. So, how Georgian, College is preparing to cope with that?
Yeah, so we are seeing a drop. There's no question. There's been a series of changes at the federal level with policy, and so we're seeing that decline in enrollment, and that is hurting us in a decline in revenue. So we're making decisions that we have to make to ensure that we're being financially sustainable as an organization, and we'll continue to work with the province to look at ways that we can attack a broken funding model, which is the situation we're currently in. But we're working through that, and we're doing it with bold decisions like a downtown expansion, and we're doing it with innovation. So this was certainly, to this ask of the city, this is certainly step one, is to present to Finance Committee, and you heard the questions and seems to be support. So we'll follow up with the city on next steps. We also have a silent phase of our own campaign running to draw others into the project to see if we can garner more financial support. And then, as I mentioned to committee, we're waiting on an approval. There's an approval process that happens through the provincial government, and then we're really hoping to be in and starting renos by the end of summer.
Tonight we have two presentations. The first presentation is concerning the 2024 Deloitte audit report. I'd now like to call upon Lillian Chung from Deloitte to provide the presentation. And in accordance with the city's procedural bylaw, you have a maximum of 10 minutes for your presentation. However, I can assure you we will provide you some leeway if 10 minutes is tight for you.
Perfect. Thank you to the chair, and thank you to the committee for having us here today to present to you the results of our audit. Back at the November meeting with the committee, we had presented to you our audit plan at that time. Our audit results report really is a companion document just to summarize the results of our audit of the financial statements of the City of Barrie, which are also included in your package today. We will be fairly brief in terms of our remarks, but happy to take any questions that there may be for us. And if you're following along, we are going to walk you through the executive summary. In sum, the audit of the city's financial statements at this point is substantially complete, and we do want to extend our thanks to the management team at the city for the incredible work that they continue to put in, the collaboration that we've seen at that time. As I've mentioned before, we did present to the committee our audit plan for the year back in November, which had outlined a few areas of audit risk. Our audit risk assessment process really does drive the extent of the audit testing that we perform and the focus areas that we paid the most attention to as part of the audit. And we're very happy to report that there are no changes to the risk areas that we had identified at that time, and our audit was conducted in line with the areas that we had identified and also the procedures that we had identified at the time of the development of our audit plan as well. You will also see within our report that we have identified our audit materiality to the committee. We identified this as part of our audit plan as well. Audit materiality really drives the extent of audit work, how much testing we perform as part of our audit of the financial statements, and just confirming back to the committee that we did determine this materiality level based on a percentage of expenses, which is as we had planned and also consistent with prior years as well. Of the most importance to the committee is that this materiality level really helps us determine at the end of the day whether or not the financial statements are materially misstated, and we're very happy to report that we did not identify any misstatements as part of the audit. So it's our responsibility to report back to the committee if there are any uncorrected misstatements or corrected misstatements as part of the audit, and we have none to report on both fronts. As part of the audit, we also do identify if there are any material control deficiencies. We do look at internal controls in place at the city, and if there are, we would raise recommendations for the committee's consideration as well. So also very happy to report that we did not identify any items for your consideration. So overall, a very clean bill of health based on our work on the financial statements themselves. I'm going to ask Katie, who is our audit manager, just to speak briefly to the specific areas of audit risk, and then happy to take questions from you.
Thank you, Lillian. Next, I will walk through the risks for the City of Barrie. The table on the page lays out the risk, detailed analysis of the risk, and our audit response. So under Canadian auditing standards, both revenue and management override controls are considered significant fraud risk. This has not changed from the prior year. For both risks, we were able to obtain sufficient audit evidence to conclude that there were no material misstatements. On the next page, we have the implementation of new accounting standards. We noted that the city has appropriately implemented these standards, and we noted no issues. If there's no further questions on the risk, I'll hand it back over to Lillian.
Perfect, thank you. And maybe we'll stop with that. At this point, we are in a position to issue the financial statements and our audit opinion on the financial statements pending the overall approval of the statements. So happy to take any questions that you may have for us on the audit process this year.
Great. Thank you for your presentation. Do any members of committee have any questions for the presenter? Very easy job. Obviously, you did a good job. I don't have a question, but something that I want to highlight that I've noticed in the report that is quite significant is the debt level to the city year over year. It's decreased by 13.7 million, which is quite a dramatic decrease in a matter of a 12-month period. So thank you to all the staff that are involved in accomplishing this, and thank you for your presentation.
Thank you so much.
We will now move on to our second presentation, which is concerning the Georgian College downtown expansion, entitled Game-Changing Innovation in Action. I would now like to call no stranger to council, Kevin Weaver, the President and CEO of Georgian College, to the podium.
Great, thank you very much. Ane Sego, Nakurmiak Tonshe, which means hello in Ojibwe, Mohawk, and Nuktatuta Mishif. Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair Harvey, committee members, for the opportunity to speak to you, and also recognize other councillors in attendance and city staff. You have the full proposal in front of you, so I will try to keep my comments brief, and hopefully we'll have some time for questions. I am here to share our request for investment in an expanded and transformative partnership opportunity between our two organizations, a partnership that builds on nearly 60 years of collaboration to reimagine downtown Barrie's future. As you know, Georgian's downtown presence has proven its value since 2017, just as our main Barrie campus delivers a significant return on investment each and every day. With the city's foundational support, over the next 10 years, we'll scale this legacy of success and transform 55 Mulcaster, also known as the Barrie City Centre, into a beacon for creativity and innovation to drive economic growth. Once complete, we'll open a new 82,000 square foot creative learning space, 4 times larger than our current downtown location. This expanded facility will allow us to welcome over 1,000 students in programs focusing on design and the arts, creativity, and innovative and disruptive technologies. With a total budget of $32 million, the project will allow our expansion's first phase to be completed by summer of 2026 and welcome the downtown location's first class of students in September 2026. Later that year, we'll also celebrate a grand opening. I will say this is a significant and bold step forward for our college, our community, and the future of downtown Barrie. As you can see in the pictures, this isn't just about learning spaces. It's an innovation ecosystem. Imagine student game designers and programmers collaborating with gallery curators, artists, and designers. That's the future we're building. Our vision for our expanded downtown presence shares strategic values and outcomes with the City of Barrie and the community. This project's design reflects an intentional and inclusive approach that is both strategic and long-term. Your $7.5 million investment unlocks $32 million in economic activity. This expansion will amplify our overall impact in the city with business owners, downtown and city residents, students, and more. Looking at the long-term impact, this project will play a key role in strengthening our city. First, it'll create a strong talent pipeline, with our graduates helping to drive growth in the digital technologies and creative sectors. This will directly support the local economy and attract new opportunities. Beyond that, our expanded presence will contribute to city building, bringing new energy, vibrancy, and a stronger sense of community to the area. Finally, with increased enrollment and new programming in high-demand fields, we're able to meet the needs of both students and employers, ensuring our region stays competitive and innovative for years to come. We're requesting a $7.5 million investment from the city over 10 years. The requested investment is the foundational catalyst required to launch and scale this initiative. This project has already received overwhelming support from leaders across our community, local officials, business leaders, and community organizations, all recognizing the transformative potential of this investment. I'd also like to recognize I have the pleasure of some guests tonight, Jamie Massey and Dino Melker, who also champions and supporters of Georgian College, and also two of the landlords of the Barrie City Centre, tremendous champions for this project. They all see it as a catalyst for city building and positive change, describing it as a decisive step forward for Barrie's future. Together, we'll make Barrie a national model for creative urban revitalization in a downtown setting. So let's give students the tools they need to thrive, and our downtown the energy it needs to flourish. Chi Miigwech, thank you. Happy to take any questions.
Great. Thank you for your presentation. And do any members of committee, Mayor Nuttall?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. President, for your presentation today. I guess a few things before I ask Mr. Weaver if I could go to CEO Prowse, and I think this might be one of those moments where I think you'd probably lean on Ms. McAlpine if she was here. There was a previous commitment to Georgian College when we secured the downtown location over at Bayfield and Ross Street, if I'm getting that correct. I think it was about $5 million. We ended up with about 16,000 square feet in that location. Is that, am I remembering that correctly? I think it was going on 20 years ago, but.
Through you, Chair Harvey, to Mayor Nuttall. Mayor Nuttall, my recollection is you are accurate. It was, I believe, $5 million. And sadly, I was here when we made that the commitment. So I'm stretching my memory, but I think you're correct. It was $5 million.
I was still going through puberty at the time, but I think, so Mr. Weaver, I think there's a couple things. First of all, the $7.5 million for, I think you said somewhere in the neighborhood of 80,000 square feet, is that?
Yeah, 82,000.
82,000 square feet. And is the number of students, do we know what the number of students that would be downtown is going to be?
We're estimating just over 1,000 students when it's fully operational. Through you, Mr. Chair. Sorry.
And now I'm breaking my own rules through you, Mr. Chair, as well. The number of students that currently reside or go to school at the Ross Street location, what's that number?
At the Ross Street, that number is about 150.
Okay, so we're going to end up with 10 times the students or 8 times the students. We're going to have about 4.5 times, 5 times the space in the downtown, and the request is for $7.5 million total. And the disruptive technology that you're speaking of, can you describe what those programs will be for us?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. So we have some programs that we currently offer that we would look to move to this new location. Things like digital content creation and strategy, game design. We do a lot in VR, virtual reality, augmented reality, immersive technologies. But we also have some other programs that are in the pipeline that we're not allowed to publicly speak about until they're approved through ministry, but we would look to bring those programs as well. And I think what's really important about the disruptive piece of this is what we want to create is the collision between what we call the traditional arts and design. Of course, those fields are drastically changing with the new disruptive and innovative technology.
My final, Mr. Chair, if I may, and I guess, what did we call it before the meeting where you give a speech and pretend it's a question?
Oh,
a question. My comment would be this, and you know, I think we as a council need to figure it out and weigh in. But we have the Regional Innovation Centre moving into the downtown. Georgian College was the first piece that kind of dropped here. And when I say dropped, I mean that in a very positive manner. We have Lakehead going in. We've got the Performing Arts Centre that's going in downtown. We have a new investment from our police services in our downtown. We have more officers coming downtown. We've got new productions, including a local that Councillor Rietma asked for as part of the dollars for the BIA, as well as the larger national stars coming. there's a lot of really positive things happening in our downtown. I don't think if we had asked ourselves 3 years ago if we'd actually be able to see them all happening, we would see them happen. And I think that we need to, as a council, when we're looking at this, look at the macro picture of what's happening in terms of students in Canada, students from Canada, students coming to Canada, and look at the benefit of Georgian in the community. And I don't want to speak to their financial position because I just don't know it, right? But what I do know is that they are an incredible driver for business in our community, to support local businesses, to support employees moving into local businesses, and to support training and research. And if we were going through a tough time financially, I would hope that the other public sector or quasi-public sector institutions would be there to support us as well.
Great, thank you. Any other members? Councillor Kunkel.
Thank you, through you, Chair Harvey, to President Weaver. Thank you for the presentation. A couple of questions. Without putting words into Mayor Nuttall's commentary, if I reflect on that, I mean, on the financial side, I think, again, I don't need that in front of me to feel confident about where you're going with the vision and the partnership. So I think the confidence in Georgian as a solid partner, but also as an innovator, and around, I think, being bold, but also I think practical about not overextending where you don't need to be. But I think for me, it's appetizing around supporting the ask. I think it's very realistic for us to be able to manage that. I think we'll talk about the how, but I'm fully supportive of the ask in this investment and around. I think the innovation piece, and I think it just complements beautifully areas where we've had conversations about what does it mean to bring a greater presence from an academic focus within the downtown. So my question is, while I do see, and it's lovely to see staff and influential partners in the room around that there is confidence, and I don't think we question that, and I hold that confidence in Georgian. Can you talk at all about the demand for this area of focus? So I know we're talking about 1,000 students. We know from an academic recruitment, there is a high competition. I know Georgian typically moves well in that space with your employment rates post-graduation and other areas and where you're expanding, but can you speak to an awareness about how this will meet an easy demand for enrollment and that you'll see those numbers and or the attraction to this as an area of focus?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, thank you for the question, and thank you for your kind comments to you as well, Mayor. What we're building the platform off is the first set of programs. We know we have good student enrollment, and I will share some good news that we continue to climb in our domestic enrollment at Georgian College. In fact, our confirmations were outpacing most of our competitors. I'm very happy to share that. I'm a pretty competitive individual. And to your comment, part of the vision of this is to be bold and innovative. I mean, you see the renderings. I get excited every time I see them, but we also feel that will be a catalyst for recruitment. To see the vibrancy of a campus designed in that way, to see the vibrancy in downtown Barrie, and then to come out with new programming to say, this is where you're going to study. We have no concerns about meeting that demand, both the student admission side and enrollment and the labor market side.
Next question through you, Chair Harvey. So we know Lakehead has a STEM area of focus that we're supporting. We know that we're talking a lot about innovations and tech and digitization. We were in Ottawa, and I was able to tour Area X that I've kind of been shouting from the hilltops about how cool it is, but some of the really leading tech areas. Can you speak at all about any awareness where appropriate that Lakehead has of this? And I'm assuming great complement. I don't see an overlap to programming, but maybe for the public who's maybe seeing a lot of different areas of focus, how this complements versus overlaps, anything that Lakehead is going to be providing through STEM?
Yeah, great question through you, Mr. Chair. Complementarity, I think, is the right word, and we talk with Lakehead regularly. What's really important to know is the degree programs that we currently offer with Lakehead. Many of those will end up in downtown Barrie, and we have pathways built through our STEM programming 2 degrees for those students who wish to do it. But certainly these programs that we're talking about offering downtown are complementary to Lakehead, not competing in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, thank you.
And then lastly, anything, this is a loaded question, anything that you think would be really opportune for us to make sure we took away that maybe wasn't covered in the presentation, but I'm seeing that while you're talking about 32 million in concept in the 7, that you feel confident that the other is kind of backed or is something that you can have access to. I'm not sure if you want to speak to that. I think you mentioned in your presentation 7.5 would unlock the rest, and you alluded a little bit to waiting on the ministry's green light on some other programs. So while I'm not, looking for you to breach that confidence in any way, are there any relationship to the funding to ministries' permissions? I know sometimes we talk about hospitals, and we have a sense that you have to put skin in the game in order for sometimes a ministry to look at funding. Is there a formal relationship in this initiative to what's pending with the ministry and or access to future funding?
Great question. Through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, the one connection to the ministry is not related to funding, although if you're following our sector, there's lots of conversation about funding these days. It's really around when we take a project on of this scale, we are an agency of the Crown, and there is an approval process through the provincial government. I will share a donation like this, an investment like this, goes a long way as a catalyst to support those approval processes. And then what we've done is we've set some capital, we set capital money aside over the last couple of years. We've been building up our capital surplus to be able to invest. And then we'll also be going out with a campaign, and we're in kind of the silent phase of that for other philanthropic gifts to support the project. So financially, we're confident we will get the funds needed between Georgian, hopefully the investment from the city and philanthropy. And then, as I said, this would go a long way to getting that provincial approval, which has no funding attached. It's just part of being a Crown agency.
Thank you. Those are all my questions that I think are relevant for the public to maybe appreciate what they ask.
Great, thank you. I'll now go to Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair Harvey. And mine's more of a long statement with a very short question. So first of all, thank you for the presentation, and I'm very excited about this. When we took council for this term, we were, I wouldn't say promised, but there was this big hoopla that there was tons of jobs coming into that building. And you've already mentioned the 2 gentlemen. There was one other gentleman that's part of the ownership group that took it over. And it started basically from our inaugural meeting where we set the tone of a Team Barrie, and Georgian has been a great team member, along with the gentleman in the audience. The vision for this, which allows all the other stuff to occur. If it doesn't start with the ownership group of that building and the vision to move you downtown through work with the mayor and yourself, we're not having this conversation and the opportunity, to change the downtown in the most positive way. The busy streets are safer streets. This all occurs by this. And we look at the occupancy now in that building and the foot traffic that's starting to occur. We're already seeing the benefits. You kind of touched on my question. So I thank everybody that is involved with this. Sorry. The contribution from the city, you said, really helps with the application process. By supporting in a presentation or a motion, obviously helps as well. Is there anything else that we could do that would secure your programming or ministry dollars?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Well, good question on, certainly on the programming side, we have a traditional standard process with ministry, and Georgian has been very successful getting our programs approved. They go through a very rigorous internal quality. They go to our Board of Governors. So not concerned about the programming side. On the funding side, there are some conversations happening. We understand our ministry will be having funding formula review conversations starting in July. Certainly, if there's an appetite, if there's anything you can do, I think it is just support for, Georgian as your post-secondary institution that does have value to the city. And I want to thank you for all the comments tonight that echo that. I mean, we exist to support, obviously, the community and the labor market, and that's what we're here for. So I think that's really important. And then we've been talking to our local MPPs. We've been keeping them updated on this project, et cetera. And, you know, I think just seeing the support of the City of Barrie City Council, I think will go a long way, and we'll have the appropriate phone calls as follow-up as needed with the province. But we're feeling fairly confident at this point. I mean, you can never say never until you get those approvals, but we've done everything we can do, and we're in good shape, and we're in constant communication with the ministry. Thank you.
And I'll now go to Councillor Rietma.
Thank you, Chair Harvey, and thank you, Mr. Weaver, for your presentation. And it's a very exciting project, and for sure, Georgian has a big place in the City of Barrie, and it's a great initiative that you've taken here. I just wanted to talk to you about the student numbers a minute. You've got about 150 downtown, you say here now, and are first of all, in September of 26, do you expect 1,000 students to be down here, or is it kind of we start there and we start somewhere and we grow, or how does that work?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, thank you for the question. It won't start with 1,000 day one, no, but it will start in, we expect 500 to 600 students at minimum to start that fall. A lot will depend on, you know, construction schedules, labs, et cetera, and then we'll just continue to build. And it won't be a long build, as you would appreciate for us. Every square foot we invest in learning space or innovation space, we want to maximize and utilize, and we would expect that out of our investment as we would out of a city investment.
Okay, I appreciate that answer. And I was just wondering, how many students do you expect to come from the main campus in Ward 1?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we're estimating that that'll probably be the initial, probably initially about 500 students would shift down, and then we'll see growth in those programs because we'll build the space to allow for that growth, plus new programming, which will help us get to the 1,000. So there is a little bit of a repositioning of some of those programs, and again, very thoughtfully, very strategically to bring those programs that we know will excel downtown in the space of the creative economy.
A couple more. Yeah, I think that's great, and I think your suggestion about, you know, the collisions that you're proposing that expect to happen, I think will happen, and I think that's really a great boon to downtown. And I'm really. We had a town and gown meeting the other day, and it's very interesting that your domestic enrollment is increasing and increasing fairly significantly. So I see that as a real kudos to you for that. My final question has to do with student housing. As part of this, any thoughts about that?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, absolutely. You know, student housing, as we've talked before, certainly at council, is on our minds. We did a large project, and we actually, as far as renderings to what more resident spaces will look like, I would say we're in a recalibration period as a sector truly across Canada. So we, as much as we're growing domestic, we are still going to shrink over 1,500 full-time equivalent students next year. And so, you know, that will be felt, certainly from the college, but I suspect also the community. But as we bring and ramp up to 1,000 students downtown, we're certainly interested and open to discussions with potential developers that may be interested in housing options, because I think what it does is it actually opens the opportunity to not just think about residents just on campus, because we've now diversified where our students are coming from, where they can live. And as you know, Councillor Rietma, all our students have access to the bus pass as well. So we want to leverage some of those things as we're growing, but we are more than happy to have that conversation with interest. I will share with you in our financial climate, as I said, we do have a project scoped out, a quite significant one that was academic space, student residence, even some temporary workforce-based housing, it's a large price tag, and those dollars we will not have as a college for at least the foreseeable future. So those are things that we'll continue to monitor.
Great, thank you. I'll now go to Councillor Harris.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Harvey. And my question was very similar to the final question that Councillor Rietmaas was really about the housing, and more in the sense that, and I think with the kind of recalibration of students in college and international students, my thought was, I know when we celebrated Lakehead coming to Barrie, and same here having Georgia move downtown, this is fabulous, this is great news. And we see on slide 4 that we're really important in this plan. The message is pretty clear on slide 4. So what I wanted to maybe just kind of, you could highlight is that it's not, you know, we had Dr. Mike Moffat come here and speak, you know, several years ago. We were probably one of the first places that really understood and connected with the impact on housing in neighborhoods with colleges and such. So, but it seems like to me, if I'm getting this right, that with the kind of reorganization of community colleges, focusing on local students, and with the retracting of some programs, we're not talking about a net 1,000 more students putting pressure on housing. This is going to be a lot smaller, manageable, and really not going to be that kind of pressure that people have experienced in the last, 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, you're absolutely correct. We will still experience that net loss of, truthfully, the fallout of international students. And just to clarify more for the public that may be watching, one thing we have never done is slow down on domestic recruitment. We definitely had challenges with demographics for a period, and we knew that. We knew for 10 years we were going to struggle to recruit domestic students, and that bared out. And now we're seeing that growth, and we never have and never will turn away domestic students. But you're right, with the recalibration, we will lose over 3,600 full-time international students. So we'll see a loss there, and we'll see some growth on domestic. But over the next few years, there is still a net loss of total students, and I don't say that with certainly any pride or comfort, but that is our reality. And you're right. So we're doing everything we can to focus our energy on program innovation that is attuned to the domestic market and to the local labor market.
Well, thank you. And with all of that said, it's great to see that Georgia is in a position to invest in Barrie and a campus. So that's fabulous, given the circumstances where some colleges are and where you are is a much different position. So thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I want to thank you for that. I did mean those words. I will just say it's a bold move for the college, and I know it's a bold move for the city, but we felt even in times of financial challenges, there is a time to innovate and there's a time to build, and we have to look out because we want to be in partnership with the City of Barrie for another 60 plus years.
Great, thank you. And I'll now go to Councillor Negussi.
Thank you, Chair Harvey. Thank you for your presentation, Mr. President. I had a discussion with some residents, and many of them are genuinely excited about the Georgian College expansion, and it's a major step forward that will bring a lot of significant social and economical change in our community. So just a quick question. How many jobs will the downtown location create? Is there any number?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we don't have the full roll-up number yet, but certainly that's something we can come back to staff and council with. But a lot will depend on lab sizes and those sorts of things. But you can rest assured, with 1,000 students, you're talking easily over 100 staff would be on site. They may be coming and going from main campus to downtown, but that would be a minimum in terms of teaching staff, support staff, staff to make sure that food services and other elements in the building are active and alive and well.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Is there any other members of non-committee? Councillor Morales.
Thank you, Chair Harvey. As I'm joining you guys, I just found out that the student housing question has already been asked. No. So I'm glad that it has, and move past that. To yourself, Kevin, the kinds of, do you expect to have the kinds of programs that you're envisioning having in the space? Do you expect to have major partnerships with like large corporations What I mean by that is obviously Honda has been instrumental. Is there any identified key players at this point for kind of this downtown branch?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, thank you for the question. We do have some existing partnerships in some of these program areas. I wouldn't say they're not, it depends how you define large, but I would say they're all industry driven. And you just take something like our gallery. I mean, we've shared a partnership with the McLaren Arts Center for years. There are most companies in town that deal with digital media, social media, digital content creation. We partner with. When you look at game design companies in that space. So I would say partnership is definitely at our core. In fact, we just recently launched our new strategic plan, our 5-year strategic plan. And my colleague David, who's in the audience, tells me, and this just fluked out, this is not not meant to be an unlucky thing, but 13 times partnerships are mentioned in our strategic plan. We are only successful in these programs if we create those partnerships through co-ops, placements, capstone projects, program advisory committees. So to answer your question, yes, partnerships will always be a key. And we do continue to look. I mean, that is a big, large-scale partnership. And as those opportunities avail, we're always in those conversations.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. That's my only direct question. This is kind of just commentary on this question, but I feel comfortable with this, that you're, the college led by yourself is leading on this. One of the many reasons I feel comfortable about it is how you're handling the comments that I've seen in the media. I'm not privy to private conversations, but how you're handling comments about the federal government, in my personal opinion, correctly right-sizing international student numbers. At no point do I see you complain or blame someone else. All I've seen is accountability and finding a very delicate balance between respecting staff, respecting unions, respecting service delivery, and respecting the budget. And it's been very telling because I've seen I couldn't say the same for other college presidents in other colleges that are as affected. And so the leadership with those comments gives me confidence in the leadership with this expansion. So that's how I'm relating it back to this. So I just wanted to say that. I hadn't had a chance to tell that to you. Kudos, I've noticed it. I know it's not easy, and it's always easy to kind of just throw up your hands and say it's someone else's fault, but I haven't seen that directly. So, it speaks volumes to what I think will be the leadership behind this.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for those comments.
Great, thank you. Any other members of non-committee? Councillor Nixon.
Thank you, Chair Harvey, through you. President Weaver, I just wanted to start with a comment, and it's interesting how 3 years ago, as Mayor Nuttall mentioned moments ago, 3 years ago when we looked at the situation downtown and as we began this new term of council, and obviously the revitalization of downtown was a priority for all of us, especially myself and as the councillor in Ward 2 and Mayor Nuttall. And at the time, I don't think it's a secret that we kind of thought that the big solution was going to be the growth and all of these major projects that had been approved, and we're just waiting for shovels in the ground. And once these 5,000-10,000 people move in, and problem solved. Well, as you know, that didn't necessarily happen. We've had a couple of developments built. Most others are kind of paused at this point. The thing that we didn't realize at the time was that the big part of the solutions were right here. We're homegrown, and that's what has happened, and not just with the college, but with so many other things that were mentioned earlier that are in progress and will continue to be. I think we're on our way. The question, I guess, is that with the once you are moved in, and I'm not sure, we talked about square footage, but how many floors are we talking, and maybe it should be through you to the gentleman behind you, but what would be the occupancy of that building now? Is it going to be pretty much full, or is it almost?
Well, through you, Mr. Chair, I can tackle the first one. So it's there's a lot of elevation change in that building. So the two gentlemen behind me might be laughing now because it's a whole tutorial to figure out the elevation in that building. But it's about three different floors we'll be on. We'll have some street level. We'll have what's called the podium level, where on the upper deck, where I think at one point was going to be a grocery store. And we'll also have another level just above that just kind of abuts up to the BMO offices on the second floor. So it's about that. To occupancy, yeah, I'd have to look to my colleagues. 90%. 90% occupancy once we're in.
Okay, thank you. That's a pretty good number considering where that building sat for many years, and again, thanks to the ownership for making that happen. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. I do have one question. I knew the housing thing was going to come up, and that's why I let it go to Councillor Rietma before I asked any questions, because I figured that was going to be one of his questions. And obviously, with the other privately owned stuff that's across the road, obviously that changed its use during the pandemic, because obviously it was run as a private business, so we don't have the same control over that. So I do appreciate that obviously housing is something that you're thinking about in the forecast, especially with the additional numbers, because obviously this is going to really help reinvigorate the downtown. My real only question now would be in relation to the funding, and obviously you've heard quite positive comments around this table. I guess my only other question would be, because obviously we service a lot more than just residents of Barrie. Do you anticipate an ask of the county, or is that something that's been done in the past?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. We have one other project that we are undertaking at the main campus in Barrie, and that's the expansion of our skilled trades. And so we have made an ask of county, and county has delivered on that ask to the tune of $1.5 million. And we had another industry partner come forward with $1 million for that. At this point, that doesn't mean we won't be back at some point having conversation with the county, but right now their focus has been to help that project and that was a gift to help get that project off the ground.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for your presentation. Obviously, you had to field a heck of a lot more questions than the presenter ahead of you, but I guess it just shows the level of interest and tweak with this new project moving forward, and the difference that it's going to make to the downtown. And again, thank you to the ownership group that has really turned this building around, as it has sat vacant for far too long. So thank you again.
Thank you all.
And actually, just to double check, because I do see another individual. Are you Mr. Rodriguez by chance? Yep. Okay, so actually we'll double back and go to open delegations then, and I will now call upon Victorino Rodriguez to come down to the podium. And in accordance with the city's procedural bylaw, a maximum of 5 minutes is permitted for you to speak, sir.
Mr. Chair, may I have a couple of minutes to make introduction to my presentation, please? Yes, maybe a couple of minutes.
Go ahead, sir. You have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Mr. Chair, members of the board, I will commence this presentation in two parts. One is the introductions, which is I start with analogy, and this analogy goes like this. The radiance of the sun can appear in three forms. On a clear sunny day when it's fully visible, on a cloudy day when it's partially hidden, and during a total eclipse when it's completely blocked from view. This afternoon, I speak under the third condition because what happened to me has been a total eclipse of clarity, fairness, and process. Together, we will bring this water consumption responsibility to a clear sunny day, where this case will be fully visible, accompanied with reliable evidences. I commence my presentation, sir. In July 2015, a water account was created in the City of Barrie under the tenant's name. At that time, I was clearly told by the city representative that the tenant, not the landlord, was responsible for all the charges. The tenant left behind a balance of $1,150 of unpaid water bill. Now, the city accounting department say I must pay. My answer is why? And there are evidence of my positions. Point number one, rule change without notice. I was told clearly in 2015 that the tenant was responsible for the bill. When I later met with the city accounting department, I was told that the new bylaw passed in 2016, making the landlords responsible, overriding the old policy, and I should have known about this. But here is my question, sir. Were all the residents of this city officially notified of this change? Certainly I wasn't. You can't change the rule in the middle of the game without telling all the people affected. It is like winning in a casino only to be told that the rule doesn't count anymore. We forgot to inform you. That isn't just unfair, it's unacceptable. Point number two, the city did not follow his own procedures. The city failed to follow his own enforcement process for unpaid water bills. City policy is based in 3 steps. First, is a reminder must be issued when the balance passes over 400 mark. Talking about reminder notices, do you know, Mr. Chair, how many of these notices were issued to this tenant? Asking you. Take a wild guess, or any member of the board. What do you think is reasonable? They issue 22 this reminder to these people. So the city should have known who we're dealing with. Step number two, if I'm a notice of potential disconnection due to water bills arrear. Third, if I'm paid, the water bill might be shut off. On September 23rd, 2024, and January 25th, 2025, the landlords, my wife and I, requested to shut off the water supply. Both requested were ignored by the city. If the city does not follow its own rules, how can we be held responsible for the results? Conclusion, I call for fairness, sir. What an honest.
Unfortunately, sir, your 5 minutes is up. That's why the microphone went off. I'll give you another 30 seconds, but the mic's not on, sir. If we could just turn the mic on for another 30 seconds or so. Great, thank you.
I don't need a microphone. I can
No, it's so that way we're streaming live, so that way people that are watching can hear you also.
Okay, no problem. At one point, the city changed the bylaw without proper notice. And then at point two, failed to follow one of their internal procedures. This scenario looked like a dine and dash with the full consent of the city accounting department. As respectable, honest taxpayer, we were asked to pay the water invoice, and then we were and your committee emits a verdict on the landlord's favor, the money should be returned to us. Tonight, I respectfully ask you, void the invoice and return the funds to the two senior landlords affected. We're not here because of negligence, we're here because of breakdown in communication and enforcement of the city part. I trust on your good judgment, and I thank you for all your time. May fairness and reason guide your decision. May God bless you all. Thank you, sir.
Great. Thank you very much for your presentation. And just before we go to questions, I would just like if we could have Colleen Smith, our Director of Finance, to provide an update to committee so that way all the information is before us before we start asking questions. Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you, Chair Harvey. So the landlord is correct. The city's wastewater billing bylaw, the newest one, is from 2016. It does state that an owner may request that the city bill a tenant directly any water consumptions related to a property as a convenience to the landlord. However, the owner must assume full responsibility for all charges applied to the account in the event that the tenant fails to pay. While this account was created prior to the effective date of this bylaw, the preceding bylaw from 2011 did contain similar language. In addition to that, to create a water account in the name of a tenant, the owner must complete and sign an owner-tenant authorization form, acknowledging that the owner understands and accepts these conditions. We unfortunately do not have copies of these forms dating back to 2015. However, there is a note on the account that this agreement was received and was effective with the tenant move-in on or around the date of July 1st, 2015. So the city currently has approximately 5,900 tenant water accounts in tenant names, and we do consider many factors in determining which account should be shut off, including the account balance, the account history, number of bills in arrears, and whether the owner has submitted a request for consideration. That is one of the factors that we do take into account. As he has stated, there were 3 requests regarding shut-off for this property. One was in May of 2024. The water was shut off. An arrears balance was paid by the tenant, and the water was subsequently turned back on. In September 2024, there was a second request. However, the balance was only approximately $150, which staff warranted too low to warrant a shut-off. In January of 2025, a third request came in, and the account was scheduled for shut-off in March. However, the tenant vacated the premises, so the shut-off was canceled. Staff did attempt to send a final bill to the tenant at his new address, but the account balance remained unpaid until the landlord settled it on the May the 2nd.
Great. Thank you for that update. Do any members have any questions? Go ahead, Mayor Nuttall.
So the outstanding amount went from $150 in September to $1,100 in January?
Through you, Chair Harvey. Mayor Nuttall, yes, that is correct. However, staff do not do shut-offs in December or January because of the holiday season. We haven't done shut-offs in those months. The request was made in January. And yes, by the time May came around with penalties and interest and the consumption from September onwards, the balance was $1,150.
How much of it is penalties?
Not a significant amount. The amount of penalties is 1.25% per month, but included in that $1,150 was $300 charged for the previous turn off and shut on, which per the fees bylaw is $300. So the actual water bill was just over $800, including penalties and HST, and then $300 for the previous shut off.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So you're saying basically that there was $800 and some odd dollars that's actual water bill. There's $300 that was to pay for shutting off the water and then turning it back on. And then there's penalties of $30, $40, $50, something like that.
Yes, I could, through you, Chair Harvey. I could look that number up, but it's 1.25% per month on overdue balances.
And is the total amount now paid at this point, and this is a recovery being requested?
Yes, the landlord did come in on May the 2nd and paid the full account balance of $1,150. $50 and change.
And so the $300 to turn off, turn on was something that the landlord knew because they'd been through that before?
I can't be sure of that. It is in the fees bylaw. I'd have to check if it's on the application. I don't believe that the actual amount is on the application.
Okay. There was a previous shut off and turn on, correct? In May, from what I heard?
Yes, that's correct, last May.
And was there a $300 fee levied at that point?
That was the $300 fee that had not yet been paid and continued to add on to the account.
Okay, and then maybe I misheard. Was it not turned off again later the next year?
No, there were two subsequent requests, one in September when the balance was not significant, and in January there was the third request, and we did schedule a shut-off in March. By the time, because we give 3 weeks notice to the tenant to allow them to come in and make payment arrangements, and by the time of the scheduled shut-off in March, the tenant had vacated the premises.
Final question. Through you, Mr. Chair. The process that was delineated by the gentleman this evening with regards to the notice that's required, did we follow the notice requirements?
Yes, so the system automatically generates the notices, so we do supply 3 different letters. The first letter is a delinquency letter, and it is sent out 1 week after the due date of the bill in question. That letter goes to both the landlord and the tenant. Second letter is a flag for disconnect letter, which warns of a possible shutoff when that is initiated by staff. And that letter goes to the tenant only to warn him that he could be in possible shutoff. And then we do send, the third letter is a shutoff letter that does contain the shutoff date, stating that the water will be turned off at a certain date if a payment is not made. That letter goes to both the landlord and the tenant. Or a similar letter goes to both parties.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other members of committee with questions? Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair Harvey. I just have one question to the deputy. Was it the same tenant from 2015 to 2024?
Partially, sir. The original tenant were a father and son. Unfortunately, the father passed away a few years ago, and the spouse or the son took over that as a tenant. So she kind of replaced her father-in-law.
And was the water bill remained in the same name, or in the passing of that gentleman, was the water bill changed names?
No, sir. The original name is stay until the end. It was Stephen Canton. His partner, she was never included in this process. Only was him all the time, from 2015 until this year, when they were evicted.
So just so I understand it, the name on the account and the account number was the same from 2015 to 2024. It never changed.
To 2025, sir.
Or, sorry, 2025.
Correct.
It never changed. Okay.
Yes, sir, you're correct.
Okay, thanks. Maybe to staff, is there, in the change of the bylaw in 2016, was I don't know if we had 5,000 at that time, but was there a notice sent to the people who had tenant agreements that it was no longer, it would go back to the landlord?
Through you, Chair Harvey, we don't believe that there was any change in the process. I can't say specifically for sure whether a letter was sent out, but really The bylaw in 2016 just superseded the bylaw in 2011, and they both contain very similar language.
Oh, so the 2011-04 and the 2016-11-15 were very similar in wording and procedure and how funds in the rear were covered?
That is correct, yes.
That's all. Thank you, Chair.
Great, thank you. And just one question from myself. I assume if we were to look at other services, whether it's the gas company or whatever the case may be, hydro, would they have similar procedures in place as what we have for our water then? Where ultimately it does fall on the landlord to ensure that everything is kept good when it comes to payment?
Through you, Chair Harvey, I'm honestly not sure. Yes, I'm not aware of what the other companies, the utility companies, do.
Okay, great. Thank you. But obviously, I've heard from the answers, it sounds like our policy, even though there was a bylaw change, the actual policies really didn't change over that period of time. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. I don't have any further questions for you, sir. Thank you very much for your deputation. Did you want to say what? I'll give you one last time to, if you want to say something, because I know it looks like you want to say something.
Of course, because it's a few things that the representative of the city, she said that 2015, whatever the bylaw was, and 2016, she said they were similar. If they were similar, I was not requested to sign this form. I was told it was not our responsibility, meaning my wife and I. Clearly, if they were the same, why I was not requested to fill in this form, sir? She doesn't know the answer. Because she doesn't have this form signed by us.
Sir?
Yeah, sir.
Yeah.
We're not going to get into a back and
You're not going to
forth
speak
here.
like that to staff.
Yeah, just, okay, we're not going to get into accusatory back here. You've had an opportunity to state your point. Okay, sir, you've had your 5-minute deputation. I actually gave you 6 minutes.
Thank you.
We are done. We've asked our questions, and committee will make a decision, okay?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
With that being said, we'll move along to the reports that were held, and the first one is 7.1, the priority resident registration for recreation programs, and that was held by Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair Harvey. I'll put the motion on the floor as printed, and I have an amendment to it, and if you allow me to read it, and then I can speak to it. My amendment reads as followed. The registration for non-residents for the City of Barrie Recreation Program commenced 7 days following the opening of registration for the City of Barrie residents, and that the non-resident surcharge for the City of Barrie Recreation Program be increased to 25%, and that a 120-day notice be provided to the Township of Springwater to terminate the current agreement. And I have an add-on too that wasn't printed, and I have already spoke with the staff in communication, that a letter be sent to the residents of Springwater that use our facility, just giving them an explanation that this was a motion brought forward in regards to actions of the Springwater Council. They didn't see the merit in this service that we provide. So I wanted to add that so the residents of Springwater aren't taken back when they realize that we are no longer offering basically as a Barrie resident for our recreation programs. Madam Clerk, did you want that written down, or can you get that?
Through you, Chair Harvey, I have that a letter be sent to the residents of Springwater providing an explanation that the service reduction as a result of the actions of the Springwater Council.
Perfect, thank you. And I can speak to that,
Yeah, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
So, as we know, we're around this table, we're actually, bursting at the seams with our recreation program, and it's finding more difficult for our residents who, if I remember correctly, are subsidizing the rec programs of about 42 to 46%, if I'm correct on the numbers, give or take. And obviously, we're going to have some great announcements with rec programming to try to facilitate, a lot of the new residents and stuff like that. And I'm not sure if council was aware that Mayor Nuttall and I presented some framework at Springwater, and one of the pillars of the negotiation was that we would provide parking and rec access as they were Barrie residents, something that was requested by them. And it was kind of communicated by a few of their elected officials that it was something that wasn't necessary and almost insulting, that we offered it, which was, surprising, as I've had communicated to me some of the elected officials actually use our service. So I found it kind of ironic. So in saying that, I think we've got to prioritize some of our residents, or all of our residents, I should say, with our rec programs. And I think we achieve this. And the 25% is staying in line with surrounding municipalities. So that's kind of my rationale for this amendment to the presentation that we received.
Great, thank you. Councillor Kungl, I caught your hand there.
Thank you. Thank you, through you, Chair Harvey, and I appreciate the amendment. I'm not opposed to it, but I have a couple of questions. I guess one comment overall would be thank you to staff. So if the public hasn't read this, I do appreciate and am aligned with prioritization happening first to Barrie residents before intake is done with non-residents. Because we know it's a high competitive time. I know parents and families do try and plan both their finances, but also you've got a wait list, and some of that wait list is Barrie residents. And so I know as a city councillor, I can't speak for others, but there's often the comment about I pay taxes and want access to my city facilities, which they love and are well run. So I do want to thank Mr. Dadama, through your team, Mr. Schmidt, for pulling that together proactively and presenting forward, I think, one, good awareness for us to have, and then two, an impact consideration around, I think, currently to Councillor Deputy Mayor Thompson's amendment on the 25%. For context, my understanding is it's currently 15% that they are charged. So it's not a 0 to 25% increase. It's an increase of 10% on what they currently experience. I guess my other question is, other considerations, conversations aside, when we look though at access and cost and affordability, I'm not opposed to non-residents having a little bit more of a cost. I like that we're first prioritizing residents first, but I want to understand, maybe through you, Mr. Schmidt, to you or your team, what are the current policies that we have that support those that might have economic hardship? Because I do believe we have some considerations around affordability. Are those applied to non-residents regardless of the 15% and or the amended 25%?
Through you, Chair Harvey, to Councillor Kungl, we do have the Rec Access program, but it's for Barrie residents only, so it doesn't extend to non-residents.
Thank you. Just looking to check around how that would apply to non-residents, if it did, and then how that would be impacted by what's being asked. I'll support the amendment as presented. I never want individuals that want to be physically active and lead a public health lifestyle, so I'll think about this. I don't love the 25%. I love the prioritization first of Barrie residents. In the end, who it's going to harm are people and families that really want to be using our facilities. So if there's capacity there, I think the 50% for me is a comfortable level. I'll think about it. I'm interested to hear from others because in the end it comes out of the pockets of families. I don't see the need. I know there is a cost recovery or at a loss to that, but I think that is because there is a current charge and because non-residents have had access and they have been paying the 15%, that I think we're looking at, if I'm reading the memo correctly, the potential of up to $17,000 as a revenue loss. I think from an affordability, I'm willing to eat that as an ability to kind of talk a bit about the benefits of access to physical activity and recreation. So I'll end there. I'll support the amendment. I'm not sure how I feel about the 25%. I'll wait till maybe next week on that, but those are my comments.
Thank you. I'll go back to Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair Harvey. And actually, and just for clarity, and I thank you for pointing that out, that it was an increase of 15%. Just so there's no concern, or an increase of 10% from 15%. The 120 days notice is actually doubling what our contractual obligation is. We could actually provide 60 days, but I thought just giving a little bit of notice and doubling it was the way I chose to go forward, but just to give that in some context.
Great, thank you. And just before I go to non-members of committee, we have 45 minutes. We have 3 items to get through, so please do keep your questions short and quick. I see Councillor Morales' hand. Do you have a question, sir? Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Harvey. Just to clarify, and apologies if you already said it, Deputy Mayor Thompson, the amendment reads that it be increased to the out-of-towner fee, essentially be increased to 25%. So it's at 20. So let's just go off $100. $100 for Barrie resident, and it would be $125 for an out-of-towner with your amendment. And right now it's at 15. So it's 15. Okay. I just want to echo Councillor Kungal's points. I think I agree with you pretty much on everything on that. I support the first section of the amendment, not that I can vote at this level. I'm hesitant on the increase. It just creates multiple tiers. Multiple tiers, does that mean different tiers of quality? It starts kind of going
Just going to
down.
interject. Do you have a question?
Down an interesting one. Deputy Mayor Thompson, do you have, you moved this amendment, so clearly you have no concerns with the amendment. Is there a specific reason why you have no concerns raising it to 25% from 15?
So I'll say, just if in the report it states that like Aurelia is 25% right now. So being a larger urban growth center like Barrie and stuff. So we do have the greatest facilities within our region. And I understand the affordability, but I'm elected in Barrie, and that's pretty much, I'm worried about Barrie residents, and I find that we have a capacity issue, and this is something maybe when we do build more rec centers and we have a lot more availability, it's something we can revisit it. But I just think that the Barrie taxpayer is paying the bulk of the bill.
As a follow-up there, my concern wasn't so much the affordability. My concern is actually the fairness. So actually, we do disagree on something, Councillor Congo. But fair enough. So follow up to something. There was this moment there where you said we're a bigger municipality growth, and then you trailed off, and then you started talking about like, we have better bill. Not trailed off, you know what I mean. My apologies. You segued to a point about we have bigger facilities. Wouldn't that be a case to keep the percentage lower? If we're a bigger municipality, we have more efficiencies of scales with program delivery than a municipality like Aurelia. Municipalities of Aurelia size usually struggle with service delivery because it's almost like they're already doing more than they should if they're a town of 20,000 or 10, but they don't have quite efficiencies. I think you start hitting them around 60,000 plus. So wouldn't that be more of an argument to keep a percentage closer to the existing one?
I guess the way you dissected it, yeah, if you feel it that way, but I look at it, we have the biggest, the best facilities, which comes with a bigger, heftier price tag. And like I said, I feel that the residents of Barrie are supplementing other municipalities, and I think this puts everything in. Look, everything can be revisited. If you read the recommendation from staff, it wasn't to go to 25, but having conversations, I know there was kind of a sweet spot, and I might have went just outside of it with my communication with staff, and I do thank staff for a lot of work this week on this. But like I said, I'm always open for conversation, and if it's something from now until the next council meeting, I'm always open for a conversation to look at it and support, my colleagues if feel that they make a point to sway my vote. So.
Thank you. Any other non-members of committee? Oh, CIO Pro, sorry, I couldn't see with between the clerk, between the two of us. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Chair Harvey, and not to insert myself in the discussion, but I thought there might be an opportunity for some clarity. Springwater, the corporation, the municipality, pays a flat rate to the City of Barrie so that their residents are treated or paid the same as Barrie residents. So the Deputy Mayor's motion, if passed tonight, I think would at the very least trigger a conversation. But there isn't a direct impact, I don't believe, because we currently have a relationship with the Township of Springwater. But at the very least, that would trigger a conversation because we would be out of step with Council's direction if passed.
Great, thank you. And I definitely support this. I like this direction. It's something that I asked for last term and really didn't get anywhere with it. So I would like to thank Mr. Schmidt, Mr. Datema for the work that's been done on this, because I think this is long overdue, to be quite honest with you. Because I know even when my kids were younger, we struggled to get them into swimming classes and such forth, unless you were on the phone or online trying to log in the minute that registration opened up. And I don't find that the 25% is excessive, especially when it's aligned with Aurelia. And I really struggle when we have our taxpayers subsidizing non-taxpayers to use our facilities. And obviously Springwater was a different situation. Whether they're paying what we feel is a reasonable amount for the number of people. Again, I don't know those numbers to really dissect that, but I think it's important that we were elected to represent Barrie residents and to ensure that Barrie residents can use Barrie facilities. So with that being called, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that passes. And the main motion as amended, call the vote. All those in favor? And that passes also. And then moving along to 7.2, but I see Mayor Nuttall's not here. He held that, so we'll hold that one down for a moment. And then the next one is 7.3, the corporate net zero strategy, 2025 to 2050, and that was held by Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair Harvey. I believe that 7.2, and I'll leave this up to the Chair's decision, I think it was just to give an opportunity for the presenters in case there was, so I believe that there was no questions or motions, but I think he was just to give an opportunity, but I'll leave that up to your decision, and then we can move on to 7.3.
Oh, actually, yes, he did hold 7.2 because I actually asked him to, and it was more so because of the presentation. So actually, thank you for reminding me of that. And with that being said, any discussion around that? Go ahead, Councillor Kungle.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Harvey. I do have a process question. I saw great alignment. I'm not sure how the ask would track outside of a motion. So I know there was... Oh, I thought you went back to the Georgian College presentation and the hold. Okay. Okay. Never mind. I'll hold it. Never mind.
You could say how great the audit was and we didn't have any questions.
Well, you know how I love an audit.
So quick.
Okay, so... Yes, I will apologize on behalf of Chair Harvey for any implication that that was an easy job. I'm teasing. But on that, again, on the audit, because it is a very, I think, robust process, and you laid out a great presentation. We do have an annual cycle. Hopefully the lack of questions was not any type of insinuation that we weren't highly appreciative of the integrity of and the scrutiny that goes into the audit. So thank you both to auditors that were presented today and the compliment to staff, because there is a lot of work behind that. So while I've got the floor, thank you to staff for supporting our solid financial position.
Great, thank you. And with that being said, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that passes. And then moving on to 7.3, the net zero strategy 2025 to 2050. And Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair Harvey. I'll put the motion on the floor as printed. I have an amendment just to add a paragraph. And it would read as followed, that the initiative of net zero ROI, return on investment, beyond 5 years on a new build, be approved by the mayor and chief administration officer. And I can speak to that. It is.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Harvey. First of all, I want to say, Adam, through Jeff's, Mr. Schmidt and Mr. Hughes and stuff, it's a team. Like, if you read the report and a lot of stuff, initiatives and looking forward and stuff, and it's tough because it does drive up capital cost, and I think in the report that was thought about and looked at some of the low-hanging fruit, some of the more ambitious stuff. So I do want to appreciate that. But I just think we're in the affordability crisis in a lot of ways, and not saying that the environment's not, something that we should, really be conscious of. And I believe that this report actually strikes that balance. So I appreciate the work that's went into this. But my amendment is just that if something is going to, I always think of the light bulbs that the city changed to the LEDs, and it was before my time. And I look at how fast the return on investment in cost savings, not only being more environmentally friendly, but that's the kind of balance I'm looking for. So anything that would exceed, I'm not saying is going to be removed completely, but I just, I think that the mayor and the CAO, and Mike's looking at me like, thanks for another task, Mr. Pro, sorry. But I just think that it's something that should have maybe another set of process or eyes on. So that's kind of where I'm with the amendment.
Great, thank you. Councillor Congle.
Thank you, Chair Harvey, and thank you to Deputy Mayor Thompson for just sharing a little bit of the context behind that. I'm supportive of it. Overall, very strong report. And we've seen, across the board, the leadership across departments on this. And I know I'd like to thank Ms. Oakley, some of the work being done through other asset management and fleet management, the movement to our electric vehicle aspects. So a lot of what was in this report that was packaged, I think we've talked about and aspired to. And it's nice actually to see this formalized so we can support staff in taking these formal directions. And I mean, it aligns to, I think, us walking the talk. We received the Green Cities Award last year internationally. A lot of that had to do with the work happening across departments around all these different initiatives. So I think basically staying true to that and ongoing commitment is important for us.
Great, thank you. Is there any questions from any members of non-committee? Councillor Morales.
Thank you, Chair Harvey. When you say, and you said, Deputy Mayor Thompson, another set of eyes, sometimes it's good for this. The way I'm interpreting the amendment, and I just hope that I'm misinterpreting it, it's not another set of eyes, it's a different set of eyes. So my understanding, and this is essentially council, if this passes eventually at council, I, as one of the councillors, I'm giving up my, because it says that it'd be approved, not that it would be, essentially, by the time it gets to council, let's say there was an LEED standard I and maybe a couple of my colleagues really wanted, it didn't happen. Now, if at the staff level it was put into the package and it got to us and we did cost cutting, that's a different story. So I just have, I guess my question to you as a mover of the amendment is, why this amendment? I feel like this is councillors giving up their ability to almost stick to the corporate net zero strategy, and also, lots of questions here. Why the 5 years? 5 years, in my understanding, you're giving up, like, or you're requiring the approval of 80% of initiatives, because 5-year returns in this kind of field is very small. A lot of them 7, 10. Now you start getting into a lot of them. I understand maybe not wanting to support a 20-year ROI return. Fair, totally fair enough. Even 15 years, but that sweet spot tends to happen at 7 to 10. So my question to you is, why this amendment? Why essentially are you asking councillors to relinquish their indirectly relinquish their oversight on this, and then also the sweet spot? I guess there's lots of sweet spot questions for me tonight to you.
Through you, Chair, sorry, to Councillor Morales. So the amendment was put on, so in just looking at the reality of it, so council doesn't ever approve a design build. So this could go out to tender, and there could be a lot of initiatives. Council would see an intake form in it. Like, I'll use an example. The emergency campus was built. There was a suggestion of solar panels, but it was an after the fact, so it was an intake form that come to council. But there would never be a process where council approves design builds and stuff. So with this amendment, you know, staff are going to look at it like, if a heat pump's more efficient, like the low-hanging fruit, they're going to do it without the will of council, and it's just going to get done because, you know, this is their field and this is what they, you know, they're doing for us. But this is just giving them a direction where they look at all initiatives and look at and I'm open for discussion 100% on the sweet spot. And this was communicated with staff. So, and we're going to further the conversation, but it was just at this committee. So I'm okay with changing that. But this actually gives us an opportunity where, you know, the mayor could communicate with members of council. Like, it's, but if we changed it to 7, you know, and let's say there was an initiative that staff could, and it was going to return in 10, that would give CAO Prowse and Mayor Nuttall the opportunity to say, okay, this is worth it because it's outside the parameters that we're setting today. But this actually gives us the opportunity to, if without the amendment, you wouldn't have the opportunity. It would be all left to staff because they have delegated authority today that council doesn't have.
Fair enough. Very quickly, knowing our time limitations, Mr. Hughes, in your experience, I know this is a generally your subject, your department, but maybe not specifically your subject field. Would you say that currently where the market is now, maybe not where it was 10 years ago or 5 years ago, what tends to be our, you know, the return on investments for improving to a new level of build for projects? I know that's a very broad question because there's water, there's energy, there's construction, but what tends to be a number? Are both Deputy Mayor and I both wrong on the numbers? Are we kind of close to the sweet spot?
Through the chair to Councillor Morales, I'm actually going to defer this to Mr. McMullen. I have my sense, but he is a lot closer to the ground on all of the new capital projects that we're working on, the various initiatives. So.
Thank you to Chair Harvey, to Councillor Morales. The devil's in the details. So if you're going for pure energy management payback, 5 years can be a reasonable threshold. Greenhouse gas reduction paybacks can be longer. And it depends if you're doing a smaller scale activity on a smaller scale building, 5% may be not a terrible threshold, but for a different scale building, when you scale up, that nuance of 5% might be too little. So it's not a great answer because it's not a clear threshold. I do like having a threshold as an energy manager because I have a target. So then I can do an analysis and say, is it over or under? So I like that kind of consideration. But 5% generally for greenhouse gas emission payback projects is a shorter one.
When you say 5%, you mean 5 years, right?
Oh, sorry, 5 years.
Okay. I just wanted, you were testing me. If this were to pass, would this kind of let's call it a rule, would this make you less likely to bring forward up the food chain initiatives in that are over 5 years, or would it just make you, when you find something, because there's some staffers that don't really, for lack of a better word, care about political ramifications. They're like, I'm doing my job, this is a good one, it's above 5 years, so I'm going to do the extra information, feed up the food chain, and the mayor and the CAO get to decide. Or would it be more of that outcome? I'm kind of curious as to potential impacts. Sorry to put you on the spot, but this is extremely important to me.
Through you, Chair Harvey, to Councilor Morales. I think I'm going to bring it forward. If we have something that we can support, and if it's over the 5% or 5 years, 5-year payback, we're going to bring it forward. And especially if it's really close to that number. If I come back with something that's 37 years, I think we would vet that and triage that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. Mr. Pews, I'd ask you the same question, but I know you're an extremely blunt staff member, and I say that as a compliment. So I don't have any concerns that you're going to get shy about things. Thank you for the clarity, Deputy Mayor Thompson, and the amendment.
Great, thank you. Any other non-members of the committee? Councillor Harris.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Harvey. Maybe through you too, and it's great, Mr. McMullen, that you're here. That's good that I can ask the question. I was similarly, as far as the direction that Deputy Mayor Thompson was going, I noticed the 3 types of implementation investments, and non-recoupable investment, partially offsetting investment, and payback-driven investment, which is where you're going. And so I thank you for that. I think that's the right way to focus. And in that definition, it just said initial investment that can be offset by long-term operational savings. So I think that's where I align with the having a time frame before, because it could be pretty open-ended. And in your sense of in the business of greenhouse gas kind of management, are there a number of things that we can do that will be within that kind of, we're not talking 10, 20, 30 years, 2050 is the strategy, but that there's lots of things that are within the threshold of 1 to 5 years that would return payback-driven investment without going into multiples of years.
Through you, Councillor Harvey, to Councillor Harris. Yes, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit. When we did this analysis, we looked at all the assets in the corporation, and the emerging technology when it comes to uptake of electrification of vehicles and heat pumps, they're becoming cheaper and cheaper. So there is a lot of low-hanging fruit, and in some cases, it's cheaper. We got pricing on a heat pump rooftop unit for a project, and it was cheaper than a conventional unit. So then in that case, you get a double benefit. So there is lots of opportunity within that threshold, generally speaking.
Okay, thank you. And the document was 98 pages, the one, so it was a lot, but it was really well done. And on the theme of not making an investment that's too far out, say 20 years where we capture money, is one of the reasons not for doing that is technology is going to advance. So therefore, we could make an investment and go, wow, that looked good at the time. It's not nearly as good as what's available now. Is that part of the calculus of really not being too committed with long-term payback-driven investments?
Through you, Chair Harvey, to Councillor Harris. We had some criteria because we had to evaluate options. We had a business as usual. You have low carbon options you have to consider, but then there's lots of things you can consider on all the assets. So we had parameters, and one, is it technologically available? Are others doing it? And right now, that's a snapshot of what's happening. In 3 years, that will change. And part of the motion, the focus of this is that we continue to evaluate. So there's bleeding edge technology that we're not interested in because others aren't doing it, it's not proven. So those paybacks for those technologies are typically longer because they're more expensive. So once you get up on the adoption curve for certain technologies, the price comes down. So the answer is yes. You don't want to jump into things as a first adopter. You want to wait until the prices come down, it becomes more standard.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and I appreciate the payback-driven investment approach. I think that's really prudent, and having some time frame seems to make sense. So thank you. Thank you, Chair Harvey.
Great, thank you. Any other members of non-committee? No. So I will now call the vote on the amendment. All those in favor? And that passes. And before I call the main motion as amended, just a couple of quick questions. Because obviously, if you look at the one chart, when it looks at the energy use up to 2020 or 2050, it's showing a 98% increase. The actual energy cost is showing an increase of 217%. Now, when you look at the actual emissions, the numbers are not as kind of large, let's say. But just so that things are in context, can I safely assume that this report took into consideration the growth over that time period, along with an estimated inflation tied into that? Maybe if you can take a moment to kind of explain that, so that way the numbers don't get taken out of context, because I know that's the one page that really caught my attention when I was going through the report.
Thank you, Chair Harvey. Yes, there's a combination of service growth through actual whatever the different areas of the corporation that we're consuming more energy in terms of our baseline. And then there's escalation when it comes to inflation on commodity. So you have a combination of both. So they're not necessarily linear depending upon the commodity we're looking at.
Great. And I see in the report it specifically refers to electric vehicles. Now, obviously, hydrogen is something that's talked about, and who knows what else could be around by 2050. Although the report specifically only indicates electric vehicles, I gather other options would be considered, let's say, if hydrogen took off in the next couple of years, or if something else even better were to come about. I'm assuming that we're not just hard-nosed into electric vehicles and that other options are available and we can very easily pivot if that's the case.
Thank you for the question. The strength of the methodology is that we continually evaluate alternatives, low carbon alternatives. So as we do that, as assets are renewed, if something else comes down the pipeline that is feasible, is technologically available, others have adopted, and it is and it makes sense financially, we will do it. So we're not tied to a particular technology or movement, but right now, electrification in vehicles and buildings is the way to go. It could change.
Great, thank you. And my last question, I'm not sure if it's going to be directed at yourself or because it is garbage related. I saw in the report where it specifically indicated incorporating the cost of transporting garbage in the future when our landfill is closed and at capacity. So that's obviously concerning because I don't want to see us get into something like what Toronto's doing right now and having garbage shipped to Michigan. So I was just wondering if there's any update as to what our future looks like in garbage, especially considering that York and Durham have partnered and have an incinerator, and I know Peel's got an incinerator. What does the future of Barrie and really Simcoe County, because I would imagine all of our bordering areas, and obviously Simcoe County controls the garbage. Is there some type of a partnership that could be had there for the future to obviously avoid extensive transportation costs?
To you, Chair Harvey, the good news is that this is something we are working on. I got to tell you, it will be probably the most important discussion I bring before this council on what we are going to do with garbage. We are working right now to finalize a report. We hope to bring it before you shortly. In essence, it will look to a short-term plan and also a long-term plan. Lots of talk within the province right now on garbage. That is a really important conversation, and we look forward to bringing it back shortly.
Great, thank you. So in short, stay tuned. Great, thank you. With that being said, I'll call the vote on the main motion as amended. All those in favor? And that passes. And that concludes our agenda.